Hey! Stairs.
Who are you?
Buddy, I am the Dragon Warrior.
Talk to anyone about pandas, and you will immediately notice a quirky smile when remembering one of these scenes. Do the same with an elite advocate of people with developmental disabilities, and you will notice how the smile is suddenly replaced by a concerned expression. Why? Because while for your cousin, pandas equals the Dragon Warrior, for advocates, pandas equals pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with streptococcal infections.
These are the symptoms of the disturbing illness called PANDAS. It's often mistaken for bad behavior or mental illness in children.
Now, doctors are learning what it really is. Eyewitness News anchor Blaine Tollison uncovered it's left many parents searching for answers and treatment.
Meeting pandas. So before we get into the clinical and financial burdens of pandas, let us understand what the condition is about.
Doctors say bacteria from strep or other infections can hide in the child's body, mimicking healthy cells like those in the brain, skin, joints, and even the heart. Eventually, the immune system fights back, producing antibodies, but they attack not only the foreign bacteria, but also the healthy cells.
Simply put, PANDAS is an autoimmune condition developed in children where antibodies attack healthy brain cells after an infection.
I went to the pediatrician. I told her what I had found online, and she had said to me that she thought the PANDAS was extremely rare and that this was not what was happening in our situation, despite the fact that I kept on saying, well, it's acute onset. It really looks like all of these symptoms that these people are talking about is what's happening with my son. So she was very quick to sort of put that to rest, and she thought it could be different things, from maybe a transient motor tic to I remember at one point she said that we should wait a year to figure out if he had Tourette syndrome.
We do need to be honest and recognize that when stakes are high, going against common sense seems to be the common sense most of the time. Does that make sense? Anyway, the PANDAS burden. Okay, by now, you already know that identifying the condition feels like carrying stones uphill. However, the diagnosis burden is nothing compared to the clinical burden affecting patients.
As Josie's symptoms got worse, doctors went so far as to check for brain tumors. Finally, after 6 months of torment, she found help, but it included 3 blood infusions over 2 years.
And patients are not the only ones who suffer from misdiagnosis. Parents, caregivers, and family members face complex challenges too.
There's travel, staying over, special diets, but it was regularly, there were a couple places in the States where we had a blood panel, and the panel was over $5,000, $6,000 US, so it was extremely burdensome.
The worst part about PANS, I think, for me, especially right now where he seems to be doing so great, is I'm afraid that one day he's just going to wake up.
So, as you can see, what seems like a mistake carries a high price for patients, and most of all, family members and caregivers. That's why, while advocates are not clinical doctors, they do have the mission to stay alert and be willing to question common sense to avoid a problem. The PANDAS cure. Now here comes the sun. After knowing all these terrifying facts about pandas, one might think there is no hope. Fortunately, that is not true.
So once the initial onset of the disorder is treated, whether we're able to do that with just antibiotics or if we have to go to IVIG.
Once the condition is treated, the disease can tend to fade away. And suddenly,
wasn't able to go to school, who wasn't leave the house, who wasn't functioning, generally gets back to being themselves and they're back out there living their lives.
seeing the children going back to normal. After 30 days of treatment or less, one can't help think about how appearances can often be deceptive. And hats off to you for getting here. By now, you can easily consider yourself an expert on dealing with the PANDAS condition. Nonetheless, before we wrap up, remember that one of the main ways to identify PANDAS is that symptoms appear overnight after an infection. Have that in mind and educate yourself as much as you can, and you will find yourself understanding the condition and realizing that PANDAS may not be a bad thing after all.
Master.
And that is all for now. Thank you for watching. Please share this video with the people you know who have a suffering child who suddenly changes behavior. And remember, First Choice Family Services is your information resource for the DSP industry.
Teachers and school psychologists and primary care doctors aren't very familiar with the condition. And so for that reason, there can be a lot of skepticism on their part, even accepting that the child has it. A lot of times they want to blame the symptoms on the child's behavior because they're not understanding and accepting that actually their brain is inflamed and they do not have control over the symptoms.